my parents had thought that I would never get married.
Indian women, double guilt.
Life is unfair, Buddha said that,
Yeah.
with a very smiling face.
Yeah, more or less, I was a single mom I've been a single mom for the last 7 years, and you have to fend for yourself. You have to be the mother and the father.
Because anger is what sparks you from moving from a place of utter depression.
You don't have hope. मेरे से तो नहीं होगा. Look, I'm a victim. See people who are so ritualistic, but they're not good human beings. Hi, and welcome to Reset by Preeti Chandra. This is a program where we speak to various men and women about their various challenges they face in their life and how they overcome these challenges. With these conversations, I hope to inspire, motivate, and help you come across all your challenges in your life. Today's guest is very special. Her name is Shubhani Oberai Talwar. She is a psychology counselor. She is a chakra meditation guide and a single mother. So without any further delay, I would like to introduce you to my guest. Hi Shubhani, how are you?
All very well, Preeti. Good to be here.
Welcome to Reset.
Lovely to be here.
Okay, Shubhani, so tell everyone, tell us all, how did you start your journey? Were you always a psychology counselor?
No, in fact, I got into this field as late as an age of 48.
So what did you study exactly?
I actually I'm a Wellamite, so I went to Wellams. From Wellams to even get into LSR, which is where I did my English honours. That in itself was a journey, because I think my family would have liked me to remain in Dehradun since I am from there. But, I had to convince them to let me go.
For your graduation also, you needed to
graduation.
convince your family.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. But thankfully, I was a geek. I used to study a lot, so I got good marks. So that really helped.
And LSR is a girls' college, so well.
And LSR was a
so
girls'
I think
college.
You
that
were,
was it.
Yeah, at least
Yes.
those were the bunny points, brownie points.
And it had to be a boarding, because they didn't want me to be, out and
Okay.
about. So
Okay.
it had to still remain sheltered.
Okay,
so
fine.
the primary concern was remain sheltered, because you are a girl, and you need to be particularly just protected from the big bad
So you
world.
came from a fairly conservative family.
Utterly conservative family.
Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
so after your LSR English honours, what did you do?
After that, I went and did Pearl, which was again.
Okay, so you got into fashion after that.
Then I got
okay.
into
So they
fashion.
agreed for fashion at least.
No, they did not. But okay, the flip side to that was that that they understood education. They didn't mind the education as long as that was it. Ki ladki pad rahi hai in a very safe environment. Till
Okay.
that
Okay.
much, it was okay.
Okay.
But in Pearl, I was given the opportunity to go abroad.
Okay.
Now
okay.
that was a challenge, because
Okay.
nobody.
So you studied fashion, and right after fashion, you got a job and you started working in fashion?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I got my. I started at a really. That was also, it took a long time to convince them. Literally 3 years of sitting at home and asking them if it was okay.
So why didn't you get married in the 3 years? I mean, I'm sure that would have been the next
It should have
obvious
been.
step.
That would have been such a perfect situation for my parents and for my family. I was already 26 and more than...
Wow, you started working at 26. That's pretty late.
Yes. It was because I think till then, it just took me to convince my family that I wanted to get into the work field.
Okay.
And because I come from a family of affluence, you see, working is still considered, why do you need it?
Okay,
You don't
so
need the money.
They didn't want to really...
So you don't understand the reason that why are you working?
Okay. Okay.
Be home, you've got everything covered. So why would you want to work? But for me and my innate understanding of life, if you don't have purpose, if you don't have a direction of where you want to go, it just following normal dictats was not.
No, but
making
at
sense to me.
26, you already knew that.
Yes.
I mean, I must say hats off to you, because you were able to convince them that you want to work at the age of 26. We can't typify everybody's life, because everyone comes from different backgrounds. And I mean, I, of course, studied I did my master's in finance, and I also got into fashion right after that. But after I got married pretty early at the age of 21.
Wow.
But before that, I was already working in Economic Times as an investment analyst. So my journey of work started pretty early. My father was pretty ambitious in terms of what I should study. And of course, fashion was not one of the fields he expected me to get in. So I can imagine your upbringing was completely different. You came from and I chose to get married early. You, on the other hand, came from a conservative family who was just educating you to say tick a box ki nahi isko khush karke isko padhne do, and uske baad they just wanted you to get married, and you took your time to get married at 26.
Yes. So this is so. I have to tell you, Preeti, which I've always had this conversation with you, that for me, I've understood life from a much larger picture from a very early on. So me getting married late, I mean, I was ready to be introduced to
No, 26 is not late as of today, but when we got married,
I got married at 30.
Yeah, wow.
26 was just
when you started
me
working.
getting into work, yes.
Okay, so you were 30 when you got married. That's fantastic. You could stand for what you wanted, so you didn't know you were so strong.
Yes.
At that time.
I have to say, and the one thing I realized in my life which was happening, and thankfully because of this spiritual understanding which
you said in your family.
Yes,
yeah.
It's always woven into our
your family,
upbringing and our thought process, that there is, I was here for something more.
Okay.
And I just
So, I mean, were your parents spiritually bent?
Extremely.
Or
So,
okay.
my grandfather, he's a refugee from Pakistan. So, he came and put his roots here.
Okay.
And so, he really gave us the opportunity to get ourselves connected, or to see all the saints which were coming in and out of our house, because he was a very religious and a spiritual person.
Okay. So, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but tell me something. You studied English honors.
Right.
You studied at Pearl.
Right.
You started working at the age of 26 in the fashion business.
Right.
So, where did psychology come on? I mean, what did you study psychology?
Yes, I've done my master's, but again, late age.
So when did you do masters? After you got married? Before you got married?
After I separated.
Oh my God! So you did your masters recently?
I did.
When was it?
I did it when 3 years ago. I applied for my masters because my journey took me.
And you did masters in
psychology.
And how long is that program?
2 years.
Okay, it's 2 years. Yes. Okay. Yes. And what made you take that decision to do a master's in psychology at whatever age?
Preeti, so
you were in your 40s when you decided to do your master's, and you've had your children and
everything. My children were already 12 and 8 when I decided to separate.
Okay.
And so, like I just said, that my families are very patriarchal, very but even though they're utterly traditional, I do feel that they do have this sense of understanding everybody has their own journey.
Right.
So therefore, while I did stand my ground, fighting, but in a way that wasn't with a lot of anger. You have to understand, Preeti, whatever you need from life, it doesn't have to come at a cost of distancing yourself from people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I had to convince them, yes, stand your ground.
For psychology.
For anything. Let's go back. How you'll understand how psychology came into being.
Your life, yeah.
Psychology came when I understood that people have to be, you have to have different perspectives. Everything is not about one point of view. There are different points of view, and our understanding of those points of view are only because we have been raised in a certain way, right? So here was my upbringing, which was utterly traditional, and here was my thought process, which was utterly modern and larger than life.
So you were interested in psychology, you were interested in the field, like to study so late in your life.
Yeah, psychology therefore came to understand more and more about how do you deal with the blockages
challenges and issues
challenges
you've been facing in your life.
So
Okay.
that then becomes a part of, so I needed that education.
Okay.
And once I learned that education, the purpose came in that.
But was it easy to study so late in the day? I mean, you know, I remember.
Of course.
I'll tell you something. It's really funny. So when I was living in London, I studied. I mean, I totally understand changing careers. I totally understand and appreciate evolving and acknowledging that you need to educate yourself and grow with life and not getting stuck on, say, a career. Like, for example, I told you, studied finance, didn't work out, got into fashion, did fashion for a while. Then after that, I worked with an NGO and I started my own work. And after that, when I moved to London, I remember it was COVID and I wanted to study psychology. And why I asked you is because at that time, London, it was 4 years. And I had met a very intelligent banker who had also converted and become a psychiatrist. And he said, why don't you study? And unlike you, I didn't have that courage.
Right.
So I did, I said, okay, let me study to be a life coach and let me study to be a NLP,
Yes. I did all those too.
Yeah, so I did all that, and then I started on this journey of mine. But I'll tell you what held me back at that time was like, oh, I'm in my 40s now, and so am I going to study? And then I had my 2 children and various other challenges, which probably I gave excuses.
Right.
So I'm very, very impressed that you, and I'm, the more I hear you, I feel it's you decide something and you just go for it.
Yes.
And you decided to do psychology.
Right.
And you did your proper MA in psychology, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, how you got onto this journey.
Yes.
Which is great. But let me ask you another question, because we skipped all that and we've reached your 40s and we've not even gone through your the major portion of the life. So you got married when you were 30.
Right.
And was it an arranged marriage because you came from a conventional family, or?
No, by the end of it, I think my parents had thought that I would never get married because at 26 was late, and 26 I started working. So they couldn't understand what were my timings of my life all about. So for me, going back, 40 for me, psychology was like, please, everything is delayed in my life. Might as well the true career path, let it be delayed. So, yes, I got married at 30. Family friends, we knew each other. I got introduced to him. Stayed on for, I think, around 15 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It was. And then for personal reasons, I decided that turned out to be something which needed to be, I needed to step out of that marriage.
Wow.
And of course, I've told you, patriarchal household, traditional household.
Right. How did they take it?
Of course, not well. But
I mean, which Indian household will take divorce well?
So that's it. And
so what?
tell
me, what did it entail for you?
For me, to even think that, it started with a lot of guilt first, that I'm doing this to my family after they have literally, it hasn't been a very easy journey for them.
It's not a joke when they say you marry the family in India, do you? The family marries the family. So it's, So Shubhani, it's in India, divorce is considered a taboo.
Yes.
I have seen many families, couples, while I was growing up also, where the couple doesn't get along, parents don't get along, and a lot of people make excuses as to, nahi, hum bachche ke liye saath reh rahe hain. Or divorce is very difficult, and it has been difficult in our time also.
Sure.
And hopefully now it's a more easy topic to talk about. Everybody goes through difficulties in their personal life, and it's a very personal decision.
Sure.
But I'm sure you must have faced a lot of challenges when you took this decision. I mean, I already know you're a stubborn girl. You know where you're coming from. Intelligent. I wouldn't say stubborn. You are very clear. You're very clear. And it must have been a very big decision for you. Knowing you as a person, this must have been a very, big decision. And how did you take the decision? And what challenges did you face? And how did you overcome them?
Okay, so there are 3 points. and let's just discuss this in a flow.
Yeah.
I'm a person that if I get into something, it's with a lot of commitment.
Yes.
And I needed to work. Like I otherwise won't do something. I wouldn't
Correct.
have gotten into a college which if I didn't think I would do really well, I wouldn't have gotten.
You're not
into
frivolous as a person.
I'm not
at
all frivolous.
Okay.
Right, and I'm utterly committed. So in fact, when I got, and therefore took my time to get married.
Correct.
Because I didn't want to do a frivolous thing of just get married for the sake of it. We don't know what
it wasn't impulsive.
It was not at all impulsive.
Okay.
So when it came to a head, so there are two things. There's one, of course, in my family, you don't break up marriages. You take whatever it entails.
Most families, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't, you live through those challenges. You make
and people
that
people think that is life.
Right.
People think that is life.
And for some, maybe that is life.
Yeah.
But for a person like me, that couldn't have been my life.
Yeah.
And to take a call first was utterly heartbreaking because I was, in my mind at that time, I was failing, so to speak, therefore the guilt myself, because I thought I had made a correct decision. And after 15 years, I knew I was, I needed to move on.
Very brave.
So there was a very sense of failure on my part.
Wow.
That, oh my God, you know, what is it about me that I can't make this work any further? And failure to my family. Because for me, because they don't believe in a divorce.
No, it's very beautifully touched on.
You know,
the way you've
so
said
for
these
me,
things.
So the guilt which first came for a couple of years in last couple of years was utterly strong. That why, when you can see the rest, yes, marriages are not, all bed of roses.
Yeah.
So what is it about me that I've not been able to hold it together? So that was one. Fear then came about.
Wow.
That
I
know I will not get support. You know, I knew I had to do it alone, and I knew I had to do it with my head held high, because I wasn't doing it out of a frivolous reason. There was a very strong, important reason for why I was doing what I was doing. And I had two kids who were boys.
Okay.
Now, their boys and their emotional state had to be very... I needed to look after that part too. So while fighting my fight internally, fighting my fight externally, while having the courage and the ethos of you're raising two boys, all that together needed a bigger perspective. That bigger perspective came from 2-3 avenues. It came from meditation, it came from psychology, and it came from teachings of Vedanta.
Wow.
Why? Therefore, there is a long thing of, I'm also a teacher and I'm also studying.
Yes.
Because again, for my next, if I'm making a choice, the consequences had to become a win for me. Otherwise, don't be a little more present in why you're doing what you're doing. Anger is good to get you out of a situation, but sustained anger means that you're going to implode it on yourself. So I needed to let go of anger. I needed to get... anger comes with guilt and fear, by the way, because that's the only thing you can hold on to. Otherwise, you'll go down. So for me, it was utterly important that I learned bigger perspectives of life than the dogma of either tradition or
dictated by society, basically.
Or even
by guilt or by fear.
Anything.
You know, I'll tell you something, and we'll continue with you on that. I agree with you about that. And there's a lot of people I know who have remained in uncomfortable situations, and there's a lot of people would rather, if you speak about not wanting to be in a marriage, people will say, "Kyun marta hai?" Or is it that bad? I mean, unless it is that bad, why do you want to leave the marriage? And I don't know why, I guess marriages are made in heaven is no longer the truth.
So I come from a perspective of choose your hard.
Choose your hard.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to live the consequence of staying in a marriage which is not working for you.
Right.
That's a hard.
Right.
You want to shift out and make that work for you. That's a hard. So there is, yes, of course, marriages are not made in heaven. We are all here.
Yeah.
But to make it work or not make it work, it really boils down to what is your purpose in life.
I also feel, what is your essence? I mean, if you feel you're losing yourself somewhere down the line, because see, time is irreplaceable.
Right.
And they're non-negotiable. Some things are non-negotiable. Yeah. And for a woman, to make a decision to move on is a very big deal. See, now I'm talking in a very generic manner.
Sure.
Because I think our audience and a lot of people who listen to this want to hear and want to get that courage. I'm not saying that, oh God, take encouragement and go ahead and, move on. But there are a lot of people who are in that thin border, and they don't know how to go left and right. A lot of people are paralyzed by fear. A lot of people are paralyzed by guilt. I mean, lots of times I have been very, in India, we all, whether we are from an affluent family or whether we are not from an affluent family, sadly, we are not brought up to be very independent.
Right.
I mean, I can't say that, I mean, though my father educated me and all that, lots of times fear holds you back from taking strong decisions.
Yeah.
So you're saying the source of your decision has to be choose your heart. And I'm adding to it by saying, wherever you can keep your essence, you're saying wherever you can follow your purpose.
Right.
All the same, I think it was a very courageous decision. It's just life which unfolds like this.
Sure.
And sometimes, a lot of people have asked me this question, and when they have discussed this, a lot of people come to me and talk about it. And I thought I'll ask you that when people say that bachcho ko problem hoga if we separate, how do I deal with that? And what do you say to those people?
If your relationship, if it's together and it's become toxic,
right,
that seeps into the kids. So if you're just staying for your kids and you're being utterly toxic towards each other, no, then show them this wholesome, holistic environment. There is no such thing as good or bad. If two people can be together and ensure that there's this holistic, wholesome understanding which is seeping into your children, please remain in the marriage. There's nothing better in that sense. But if the environment is toxic, and all the children, their reference points get set. They just see, even if you're together, all they see is bickering. All they see is a distance. All they see is...
So does that impact children, you feel?
Utterly. So be very mindful of that. It is not an easy choice, Preeti. It is one of the hardest choices.
See, but an alternative is in a lot of people, then even just hush. Like say, suppose they have an argument, बच्चे आगे कमरे में, so they're all silent and all that. So they feel they're managing it.
Sure.
But how can you manage something like that from children who live with you, according to me?
So again, remember we had this one conversation before we started that I will give you another perspective to that.
Right.
If you're managing this and if there is no anger in the around the children and you think you can manage that well,
which is very difficult.
It is.
Yeah,
so
it
I
is
said,
very
choose
difficult.
your heart.
Yeah, choose your
so
heart. Yeah, and then you'll die inside. You see.
But that's.
Yeah, see, they say that if you lie to yourself and you continue to pretend about certain things, then you're killing yourself inside slowly.
Sure.
And it's about getting ahead in life and taking the right decisions.
So not everybody is meant. Their essence may be to be a married person.
Right.
And we've got to respect that.
Yeah,
that for them, if they want to remain married, because the life is going to be hard either way. Life is unfair. Buddha said that.
Yeah.
With a very smiling face.
Yeah.
So if the essence is remain as a married person, because it gets all the other boxes ticked, then remain. And as long as you understand that and be okay with that, the ones who require to take that stand, move out of a marriage which is not working, again, that's another hard. So be ready for the consequences of the choices which you're making without blame games.
Yeah.
Without
blame games and without being the victim, without playing the victim.
So both, the essence is, can you take the ownership of your life? Have the ownership of, okay, this is my life. I would rather remain in a marriage, which is whatever it is.
Like you said, choose your hard.
Again, I come back to that because the ownership, it's you can't say कि मैं निकल भी जाऊं पर वो आसान होएगा या मैं रहूं तो ये आसान होएगा. आसान कुछ नहीं.
My God, it's all shades of grey, right?
It's all shades of grey. Right. So your essence comes down to what have you understood is a win in your life.
Right.
So if the win remains to be as a married person, so what if it has a challenge of that, you're not getting along, but as long as the children are fine and you are good and you can do all the society events, great.
Whatever makes you happy also.
Exactly.
And whatever are your, like you said, whatever is your purpose, nobody's here to judge anybody's purpose.
Your purpose can be that.
What are your priorities and whatever gives you that inner peace.
Exactly.
If it gives you peace to attend your 5 parties and to, be a part of society.
That's also fun.
That whatever makes you happy.
Really?
So I guess you're right not to let society dictate your decisions and...
Or if you are, be so honest about it to yourself.
Right.
Preeti. I think all of us are a little, therefore we are not so connected to ourselves. It's because we are not very honest to ourselves. That if you are in a bad marriage, which is not working for you.
Right.
And be honest, are you okay with this bad? Or do you want the change?
You know what I also feel, and I think you agree with me on that, we can't define something as a bad or a good marriage.
Sorry.
And because you, like you would have been hard on yourself as to did I take the wrong decision? मैं तो इतना सोच के करती हूँ, मैंने इतना deliberate करके ये decision लिया था to get married. So I mean, because I can understand where you're coming from when you say that, because I've made so many mistakes in my life. And sometimes I'm a little harsh on myself when I look back and I say, how could I be so, was it the same person who did that?
Yeah.
Was I so that when I did that? I guess it's just a thing of constantly evolving and growing and appreciating that, like you said, Buddha said, beautifully you said, it's not going to be an easy life and no one said it's going to be that fairy tale for us.
Yes.
And it's just how life turned out for us and how beautifully you have accepted it.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, see, I'll tell you, I have been, see, you deliberate. See, I just want to say it's really funny because you planned, you deliberated, you took these decisions late and still things didn't turn out to be a bed of roses. Okay.
Sure.
For me, I was impulsive. I got married when I was, say, 20 and, it was, everything was impulsive. I had my kids very early, I worked and this and that and so, but even I had my set of problems. So either ways.
That's why I said that
life happens.
Exactly.
Either ways, life happens. It's not, like they say, that's where the next question comes in, that spirituality and religion. That I feel that we can keep planning as we want, but we can plan till here. And then it's actually God or the universe which has something in mind. So what's your opinion on spirituality versus religion, number one? And number two, how much do you believe in destiny?
Sure. So spirituality and religion, if you really ask a good person who's evolved, says it's one and the same thing. Because religion was never supposed to be a dogma. Religion is the ritual of your spiritual journey. It's just a ritual, and religion just gives you that, just completes your spirituality, which is more energy-based, let's put it like that.
Okay.
It's more energy-based spirituality.
Yes.
And religion to me is more society-based.
Okay.
Both go hand in glove if it's done well.
Right.
Right? Now,
you studied Vedanta, right?
I studied,
So that's why now this is, we're getting your point of view.
Yeah. So for me, it is a big thing. That while, so I used to think spirituality and religion were different because religion became very dogmatic. There was a lot of dogma attached to it. And to me, I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in God. I want to follow the correct path. And yet I was facing these life decisions.
Right.
Which were totally against the norms of society. And I would have done anything to follow the norms of a society because I came from a internal place of, do good, be good, life is good. Now in that journey, to be put in a circumstance where you have to take these calls, which to me were, were my inner essence.
Inner calling.
Calling.
Yeah.
Were a challenge to be... and that meant that I had to keep revisiting my understanding of God. That who is God? That if I've asked him something, why isn't he giving it to me? So in the beginning, my understanding of God was a transactional thing. आप पूजा करो, वो मिल जाएगा.
Fast करो.
और fast करो, ये मिल जाएगा. Right? Then it became a little deeper. I said no, and that is the one thing which never wavered, which was my faith. There is a higher purpose. There is a higher calling. There is higher energy that one can feel. If you connect to it, you can feel that. Now, so yes, I do believe in God, and I think where you call him energy, you call him a higher being, you call him a name of any.
You don't want to define it.
I don't want to define it because I do believe.
And you believe spiritualism and religion go hand in hand.
It actually does.
Right.
The only thing is that now the dogma comes in, and that is
you
just
mean
someone's...
the man-made rituals.
Yes, those
which
are not.
Are different levels. I mean, people have created a lot of that.
Which I hope, they get broken down a bit more and get more into the so-called spiritual.
I agree with you on that. Like I remember growing up, and it's the rituals which used to somehow scare me. And because sometimes you see people who are so ritualistic, but they're not good human beings. Right. And that's what used to put me off. And I was like, he's doing all that. He's jap karoing and
but
he's doing the fasting and he's vegetarian and all. But he has the most foul heart and mouth and mind. Yeah. So, that's where you say, it's beautiful how you said they go hand in hand. Right. And it's first the spirituality and the energy. The spirit, and religion is supposed to help you with it.
Correct.
I guess propel
just to
it.
give a little language to this energy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like everybody has their own language. So religion to me is like a language to your spiritual journey, that a reference point, so to speak.
Right.
But if that becomes your entity, your identity, that's where it goes a little sideways, right?
You mean when we start becoming egoistic?
Yeah.
Or maybe मैं ऐसा हूँ. I think that's wonderful. And one more question I wanted to ask you, because see, I'll tell you, for everybody who's listening to us, for me, you have always had a very admirable journey, and I see good strengths in people in different ways. Sure. Whatever I've heard from you and whatever I've known of you, you've always been very sorted. And, did meditation help you a lot from your childhood, or is it something you started doing later on in life?
So before one gets into meditation, one gets into the rituals. Because ritual is a rhythm. You see, rhythm of our heart, of our brain waves. Rhythm is what makes our body move.
Okay.
So rhythm in psychology is also a huge part of understanding a person is what is your rhythm, so to speak. Whether you call them biorhythms, you call them energy fields, you call them anything, it's a rhythm. I'm going to keep it simple. It's a rhythm. So in the beginning, when you have not understood meditation, the ritual practices were actually supposed to create that rhythm in your life from the outer world to within your body to really touch the higher self. So no, I started my journey with rituals.
Okay.
But more or less I understood that there's more, because in rituals also you can suddenly connect to the higher purpose. Higher
so
God.
rituals can be a means to the purpose.
It's the step
it's
one.
the means to the purpose.
Correct.
And sometimes people make that the purpose rather than making it the means. That's where you were saying
वो दिखता है.
But
जो दिखता है वो सोचते हैं वो
and also
दिखता
you're
है,
right,
so
you
to
know, we
speak.
need it because see how else are we going to, like, you know, you watch your parents celebrate Janmashtami, or you know, on Mahashivratri कोई कुछ कर रहा है, ritual है, दूध डाल रहे हैं, doing a jap and all, and from there, अच्छा, so your thing was you started with the rituals, and then
I started learning meditation because that is part of understanding.
But was that very early on, or was that something which came along the way?
Around 15-20 years ago.
Okay, fine. Okay.
I only started teaching in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
But I had.
But you were always innately spiritual and religious. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
fine.
Because I do so while I was separating in actions from what my family would have liked.
Yeah.
But my intrinsic understanding of my life was through that same spiritual journeys which my grandfather.
You know why I was asking you this question is because I feel, compared to a lot of other people I've spoken to, and even if I compare it to my journey, in the sense that I felt you took a lot of decisions. Now fate is not in our hands, so your decisions, how they turned out, was not in your hand. Actually,
we'll talk about fate and destiny
we'll do that.
and free will right now. Straight
but
after
you know what I do admire is, like, when you took your decisions, obviously when you were deliberating and you're thinking about it, there's something to support it, which is your
faith in the higher power.
You know, the spiritualism from 20 years ago. Because on the contrary, I think I was more ritualistic, and that too not too much, because I didn't come from a very old-fashioned ritualistic believing family. We were in Hyderabad, and you know, I studied in a convent, I went to the church, we went to the temple, so my mother was very thing. But yes, of course, there were those basic things.
Sure.
But I never really dwelled so deep into it until I think I got the first slap of my life, you know, like when something hits you hard, and then you're like, why God, why me? But it seems you always had that. Little bit, you know. So it's interesting for people who are listening to us to see that it can come in your life in different ways.
Yes.
And you became deeper and deeper in your...
instead of letting it go, I went more deeper,
you know,
because I said, what is it that I have not understood about spirituality, that whatever challenges are coming in front of me, you don't withdraw from God. You actually go more into it and saying, 1 second.
But I also feel you got... See, I'll tell you something. Why I'm saying this is, and I admire this about you, is that it's because of this strength. You've grown stronger and stronger. And it has helped you combat all the decisions, whether it was when you were wanting to do your graduation in LSR, or whether you wanted to study your fashion, or whether you said, nahin, main abhi shaadi nahi karungi till 30. I mean, in those days, in 1990s,
for me,
it came from that. On the other hand, I just feel like I never thought so much then. You see, I never did. So it's... So you know, we have so much to learn from you, because you have obviously plus now.
We all are on a journey.
You know, so that's beautiful. And I think for everybody out there, it's never too late, you know, if you want to learn, and if you want to start taking your decisions, and if you all are faced with decisions in your life which are difficult, where you are feeling guilt, because see, women as human, as creatures, we feel guilt.
Sure.
You know, Indian women, double guilt. ठीक है? Also, it's embedded in your psychology. Fear. Even, you know, anything I start doing now also, नहीं ये मत कर, तेरे को ये हो जाएगा, या वो मत कर. Even now, if I step out, is it safe to go out? So fear and guilt are two things we face. And how your spiritualism can help you overcome all that. So, and that's why you studied chakra healing. And
so what does spiritualism do for you?
Right.
What does psychology do for you?
Right.
What does meditation do for
you?
There are these three separate...
Spiritualism, meditation
and psychology.
Okay.
The science of psychology. They get you to understand you. at the end of the day, your sense of self-worth
is the most important.
Your self-confidence.
Right.
If your self-confidence is arrogant, which is without empathy, that means that is coming from a
hollow.
It's coming from a place of fear.
Achha, that's a cover-up.
It's a cover-up.
Yeah. So
that
true.
means that your ego,
defense mechanism also.
Correct. So while you are trying, your sense of self-worth should be so strong that you don't really. Of course, in the beginning, there is anger, because anger is what sparks you from moving from a place of utter depression. When you come through
that's stage
depression,
one.
That's stage one. The anger needs to come. But spirituality, what it does is it gives you this innate sense of self, your own what is and self-confidence. When you take calls, when you make decisions, you're not there to argue with the people. You're just there to argue with you that what is it that is stopping my growth. In that, what it does is, coming back to this thing, while I was so-called fighting for my independence,
right,
there was no, I just stood my ground.
Right.
It was not like you are not understanding me, you are not doing
You
this.
didn't have to create this whole hula bulu about it.
Because blame games happen.
You were always very calm?
Yeah, calm in the sense I was more, I knew my sense of self-worth. Why? Because of the journey I had already experienced. Always doing something different from what the family wants me to do.
No, but by nature, that means you always had this...
an innate understanding of... This seems to be my path. There has always been a bit of that guiding light, if I can say so, that it's directing me to a path. Now we come to fate and free will and destiny.
Yeah.
Fate to me is immovable, which means which family are you born into?
Kismat.
Which is your family?
Right.
As a young child, you don't know which family you've been born into.
Yeah.
And because of that, your thought processes get formed because of the way the parents are. What your parents are they... you had a separate set of parents. I've had a separate set of parents. Another person, the viewers have a separate set of parents. That becomes your understanding of life. So it already creates a karmic tendency in you, right? Then comes free will. What we think is free will.
Correct.
But free will is through that karmic tendency only, right?
Absolutely. The decisions
because
you
your
make.
Perspective...
The door you open to your...
because you'll only see those 2 doors.
Correct,
you won't see those 5 there.
Right.
Because you've only grown in a particular environment, have only created those couple of perspectives. So you'll only see 2 doors or maybe 3 doors, while there are 100.
But you said it so beautifully about fate.
So there comes free will. But you think
so what do we have left to work with? Tell me. I mean, see, I'll tell you one more thing before you continue.
Destiny.
About fate, I spoke to a Guruji the other day, and he said, okay, ask me these questions. I said, okay, so how much is this Janam Patri and this fate and all? That is most of it.
Yeah.
So tell me, where does this whole spiritualism and free will come and play? Which you're going to say right now. You were talking about free will, right? So tell me.
Which is immovable. Your perspectives then
come along the way.
Already, give you those blinders of the so-called free will which we talk about, which are only maybe you'll see 2 or 3 options in your life. Ki main ye kar sakti hu ya ye kar sakti hu. You've already narrowed your so-called free will options down.
Right.
And therein becomes your destiny, because the destiny will be similar to what your mindset is.
Okay.
Which comes to... Can we change our destiny?
See, that's what's
immovable
most important.
Fate.
Yeah.
But you can change the destiny.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Through these exercises. Get to know yourself.
Get to know yourself.
Understand through meditation. Why meditation? Meditation is a brain exercise. your neural networks have formed these certain, like I said, perspectives, and they become these boxes in our brain. And we only think through these boxes.
Little bit more on how meditation can help us combat feelings like fear and guilt.
So fear and guilt, if you start understanding that they are actually just energy-based emotions. I'm going to go a little, everybody's told you a lot about how meditation is only spiritual. I actually want to make it a little more
scientific. That's what you were saying.
Understand that
Correct,
the science of meditation is a brain, it's actually just a brain exercise. In that exercise, your brain and the neural networks which we have created, which are perspectives, as we call, perspectives in our understanding of life, they are formed already. So what we see our life through only those boxes which are lit up in our brain.
Okay.
Through meditation, during meditation, your brain wave. Right now we are on beta brain wave. Okay, we go into alpha and theta modes if you meditate. Now, alpha theta modes means that all these boxes of brain, they expand. So your brain suddenly becomes one coherent picture.
So in simple people's terms, it is wider perspective. Shades of grey.
Exactly. So you won't see those 2 or 3 doors. You will start seeing 4 to 5 doors.
Wow, amazing.
And if once you start seeing 5 doors, what starts, the fear and the guilt are just, you'll understand that we are just, we've held our belief system so tight that the fear of letting that belief system go is what causes us to get paralyzed, right, so to speak, and remain in the circumstance we are at. But through meditation, silencing those perspectives or silencing your mind and getting more an understanding that there is more.
And even adding to your faith because of meditation, I feel, because that's when you'll surrender to...
Surrender? A lot of people, I have a feeling, surrender already, but they don't have the courage. Which is the other thing.
In what terms?
The courage to stand up for themselves.
Okay. They've just surrendered. Chodo, ye meri kismat hai type. Okay.
Right?
But I think there are 2 types of surrenders.
There is
surrender with the faith that it will happen or it will unfold and whatever happens is for my good. And the other surrender is, now I can't do anything about it.
Surrender without action is procrastination.
Perfect,
After action
is what we should do.
You surrender.
Try your best.
To the results. That is faith.
That is
so
faith.
There's faith and procrastination here. That you have surrendered because
I think that's, I'll tell you something, I think that's very beautifully said and I want to repeat what you've said because that is something which will really help all of us. And, you put it in a very lovely phrase that surrender without action is procrastination. You've given up. You don't have hope. मेरे से तो नहीं होगा. Look, I'm a victim. मेरा किस्मत ही खराब है. ये ऐसा है. It's easy for you. You have a better life. No, it wasn't easy for you. That is surrender without action.
Correct.
Beautifully put. And the other thing is
action and then surrender,
which we are practicing and we all want to practice because do your best.
And then surrender.
And then surrender. Don't get attached to the results. It's very, very beautiful. Okay, now I want to ask you one very important question. So tell me, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
If a dream doesn't die, then that is what you need to pursue.
Wow. Who said that?
Actually, it was a beautiful saint of Chinmaya Mission.
Okay, he said that.
Because when I was going through these challenges but Swami ji, main shaadi kyun nahi kar rahi? Why am I holding on to this dream that I want to work?
Right.
And so I was everybody's favorite. By the way, in all this, I was still quite a bit of a favorite child. So then Swamiji just looked at me. He says, "Bache, if the dream doesn't die, that means that you need to follow it."
Okay, so whatever you pursued, you got more strength and everything. And okay, so what's the worst advice you've been given?
Tum ladki ho. I think maybe just that. After that, whatever came.
Many things, yeah.
You are a girl.
Who said? Family?
Everyone.
Everyone.
I think
society.
Society. And that, as a girl, how can you? It really...
So you got to hear that through various
stages
of your life.
That
you're a girl. As if being a girl is like...
But I love being a girl.
I mean, yeah.
So that's the other thing. I'm not a
masculine. No, we'll talk about that later.
Women versus men.
I agree with you. See, now tell me something. Okay, now, best and worst. Okay, so what is the advice you would give yourself 25 years ago?
I really wish I loved myself more.
Even you say that?
Even I say that.
Really?
Throughout my journey, I've always felt, let me be quite clear, guilt has been a huge part of this journey. I always keep feeling guilty for, not going according to the plan set by the family. And
society and family,
right? I just I think I needed to love myself.
Love
more.
yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's surprising. I mean, people, if you ask me also, I never loved myself enough. And everything you've spoken about, self-worth, this, that. I mean, I was educated, I worked, I mean, I lived abroad, so it's nothing to do with your external circumstances. I don't think I ever stopped and looked in, and that is what has held me back to take a lot of decisions. And I think, that's beautiful, like, what you could do for them. Also, another very important thing and, question, it's not like masculinity and femininity.
Sure.
Since we said, you said one of the worst advices or the worst something someone gave you is, tum ladki ho na. I mean, I love being a girl. I love being a woman. And I'm sure...
all in my femininity and everything. Because I'm from the place that it's beautiful being a woman. It's fantastic being a man. Just equal opportunities. That don't stop me from anything. Like I would not stop you from anything. I just feel that this...
But do you think it's a man's world?
Well, right now it is.
It is, right? Yeah.
And
we can't lie to ourselves.
We can't. It is. And there is no doubt the emotional well-being of generations to come depend on a woman.
Absolutely.
You cannot...
I completely agree. I mean, see, again, it's a man's world. But the emotional well-being of generations to come depends on
a woman.
On a woman. Yeah.
That is something which... and I do believe a lot of us women have had to inculcate the masculinity in us.
Yes.
So that...
life happened.
So that we can deal with life. But always, especially mothers, I really think.
No, I also feel, I'll tell you, Shubhani, like in your case, more or less, I was a single mom I've been a single mom for the last 7 years, and you have to fend for yourself. You have to be the mother and the father, and you have to be the mother. Because, and it's so lots of times people told me to tone down, thoda soft ho jao. But I can't just switch on and off. Life happens, and you have to stand up, and you're in this man's world. Your career is in this man's world. So many things are happening which you can't be that woman who says that nahi mere se nahi hoga, and because there was no other partner at that time to help me with so many things in my life. But if you ask me the truth, I would love for an equal in my life who could take the opportunity and then I can be my nice, beautiful, feminine self.
But that's exactly what you just said, Preeti, that all women have to inculcate their masculinity, which we have the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We have to inculcate it if we don't have a man who's protecting us.
100%.
You only can really come into your femininity if the masculine is protecting and nurturing you, and then you can do what you need to do. But if you don't have that, then the masculinity has
But see,
to come
then
through
life
us.
is not a fairy tale. And
It never was.
Yeah, I thought it was. And you know, like, I mean, if
So
you don't have the father, that husband or the brother, and you have to step up. But so this is my last question to you is, in this world where nothing is predictable, obviously, and a woman has to face more challenges, according to me, because you can't stop being the mother, the wife, whatever, the woman part of your life. You have to have the soft energy.
Right.
But when you're faced with these unforeseen challenges of being alone in your life and not having that protection, you can't be that damsel in distress either. People will walk all over you. So how do you, last question, how do you balance that masculine and feminine energy in you? How would you balance it? What will help us? What tools will help? Because ye chalta rahega.
So when we were talking about action, faith also has a lot of gratitude involved.
The softness comes there.
The
correct.
softness will only every day.
Yeah, well said.
Every day when you are fighting the fight, every day is a challenge. If at the end of the day you don't have faith and gratitude, the femininity will go. It's the same thing for a man. Or same thing for a woman. Because it has to be a blend of energy.
I mean, if men would have a nice femininity element in them also.
They should have a little caring for the person.
So this is a very general answer which is actually applicable to both men and women. And to balance the yin and yang, or the masculine and the feminine in you, and that's for men and women, gratitude. Practice gratitude.
Yes.
Humility will come from gratitude.
Yes.
And from
you'll
humility,
understand. We come to people when they say, do we have regrets or not? You will even come to understand, no, you don't need regrets. Because once you start practicing gratitude, you will go down, and it's a daily consistent practice. Even the so-called challenges were there to help you evolve.
Without challenges, you wouldn't be who you are today.
Right? So then how can you regret those challenges? How can you regret your decision for those challenges? Then everything is an evolution.
So mistakes and failures are actually helping us evolve in life. And regrets are a part of our journey. And with this, I'll end today, Shubhani. I've learned a lot from you. And admirable journey, and so much more to learn from you, and I am sure we're going to have many more chats like this.
Lovely.
And wish you all the best and lots of love.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and you make me feel warm and comfortable. I'm a bit of actually I don't really do these sessions, but for you, anytime.
No, we enjoyed it thoroughly. I think you got the yin and the yang here. You know, the one who's speeding and the one who's ruko. You know, so it's a good balance. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Hope you guys enjoyed this conversation I had with Shubhani Oberai Talwar. I think we learned a lot about meditation, spiritualism, psychology, studying at a later stage in life, confidence, and even when you're innately sorted in your life, how fate turns out some other way and how you combat it with new learnings of your life. I hope you enjoy Reset, Renew, Restart. Please like, comment and subscribe to this channel, and do let me know if you want me to cover more topics. I hope I'm inspiring and motivating everybody here.